Time to call the public session to order. And it's 7:09. Please try to provide. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it's time for any changes to the agenda.
Yes, I have a few changes I'd like to add in, a donation and a budget transfer and addition of a non-resident student per policy JFAB.
Okay,
Do you want me to make those in full now, or do we wait until
yes, and are those being added to the consent agenda?
they are?
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and
Okay.
make those?
All right, for policy JFAB, I'd like to approve a sixth student to be added. The superintendent's allowed to approve up to 5 students, and then the school board can add more as requests come in, and there's been a request for a 6th. So we'd like to add that student in. And we'd also like to add in a donation of $250 from the Conant class of 2018 to the CHS Drama Club. Thank you guys for that. And a budget transfer of $25,000 for owner's rep for HVAC project in CHS and JRMS.
A second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
We have to do a
Roll call.
for the Zoom.
Okay, very good. So we'll do the roll call vote. Daisy,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
and Lisa,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So the motion passes 6-0. Okay, now for public comments. We've got no public here with us, but Nick, what have you got online?
Right now, we have one other person online, and it is Carrie Broderick.
Okay,
So I don't know if you want me to go through the whole spiel for public comments right now, or if you want me to wait until public comments number 2.
I think we, unless Carrie indicates that she's got any comment. I think we
Okay.
can pass.
Well, Carrie, if you do have a public comment, feel free to use the hand raise feature. We can acknowledge you that way, and we can go from there.
Okay. So next, we're ready for the superintendent's report.
Great. Well, yeah, I think so. I think so. Well, I mean, it's August 1st, so I don't know if you would consider that good news. I consider it scary. This is the 2022-23 school year. That's crazy. It's coming up, and it's coming up fast. But we have another month before we get started, and we have a lot to do during that time frame. Last time we met, we had some of us were here for approving some individuals to be hired. I briefly mentioned during that time frame about the job fair, but I figured it'd be better just to put it out there, and this will be attached to the website and so forth. If people go back through in minutes and see what happened, was that we did have that job fair on July 13th, shortly after that July 11th board meeting. We had about 8 individuals fill out applications. We hired, or will be hiring, about 4 of those individuals. We're still waiting on some documentation from one of them, but in the area of instructional associates, that was a real win. We found out some information. We tried a variety of approaches. Oh, we have it up there. Tried a variety of approaches, and what we ended up doing was asking them kind of what did you feel? How did you hear about this? And really the signs, actually, the ones that we spent at Savron to develop were that constant, I guess, image that people drove by and said, I think I'll give it a shot. So that's interesting information. We really don't know the extent of how much our Facebook work that we did some pushing of that and paying extra to expand, and we expanded it quite far near the Boston area as well, and certainly out of our area. So our brand or name got pushed out. That might have some value down the road. Right up front, the individuals did not indicate that was the case. That helped them come to the event. Overall, we spent less than we would if we had put it in the paper for a couple weeks. So we felt pretty good about that. Grant opportunities. Actually, I just got an email. It probably was sent to me last week. I was out, not here last week, but from Storm, indicating that she got she was awarded a STEM grant, I think from a local organization, for our after-school programming here in the middle high school for girls. Was it science, after-school science club? And so I don't know the details of that. When I get the details, I'll share with you what that was, but she was excited about that. She was letting me know. So she was out today, didn't get an opportunity to check in with her. We've applied for 2 other grants. 2 other types of grants. Like technically it's more than 2, but 2 grants. One that is with Keene State. We're applying for that. We'll find out hopefully by the end of the month whether we get an MTSSB grant. We know that we've already been pursuing that. We were recommended to them. We've had a couple of meetings with them to find out if we would be good matches, and it could be a very beneficial partnership for our district if we were to be awarded. But they're the recipients. Keene State is. If awarded, we would receive an additional person and a half to help navigate some of these issues of social emotional learning, as well as just helping us really solidify our implementation at the elementary level in particular. And the college would be doing all the data work and making sure that it's reported back to the board, obviously reporting back to the grant, because that's, it'd be a 5-year grant. I would say 3 years to implement, 2 years to sustain, and make sure that the process continues on. And we've already done some work, which we'll talk about in a couple paragraphs. Communication over at the middle high school. Certainly, we've increased the communication in specific areas. We made it kind of a vow, really, at this board, that anything new, anything different was going to be put out there, was going to be given the opportunity for feedback and so forth. So we have a series of presentations that the middle high school set up and has put forward. Last week they had one. All of these have been recorded and they are available online. I don't know, Nick, is this last one available yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
On our YouTube, but they're also.
Yep. So we have a nice playlist. This one was on Otis, the learning management system, and the broadening of that implementation here at this school. And coupled with that is a conversation around proficiency-based grading and the work that's going on there. That's not all going to be finalized and implemented this year. It will take a couple of years, but it's going to take a pretty big leap in that direction. We've been talking that for years. It is for anyone. I think 10 people have partaken, either whether they were at the event and asked questions, or whether they've watched the videos afterwards. Has not been I would suspect that there will be some individuals who will have questions once the year starts, and then we'll be able to point them to an area, and certainly the administration is ready to answer any questions that they have. They are canceling, however, tomorrow's college admissions panel, which they were hoping to have on 1 to 4 grading practice. That has to do with the fact that they were unable to get those individuals during this time of the year. They believe that that's more likely that they can have this event in the fall. So it's canceled, but it's really more of a postponement. I just don't have a date yet as to when that will be done again. And then August 3rd, this week, there's a 6th grade family orientation with a question and answer time. That's here at 5:30 p.m. So for families who have children coming from the elementary schools into middle school. And professional development, as we talk about the middle high school, we have the elementary schools tomorrow through Friday. They're participating in the responsive classroom workshop that we have paid for through Title II-A. Responsive classroom is you could call it a program, mindset, philosophy, belief system that really is at the foundation of any of the MTSSB work at the elementary school. It talks about building a school and a classroom community and consistency across the schools. So we have about 30 elementary staff members. Most are teachers, some are support staff. You have a couple administrators beyond that who will be doing that and helping that. That will happen here. When you walked in earlier today, you saw a different setup. We'll have to make sure that that setup is put back to, because that's how they want it. If you go over there and if you were here in person, you would see stacks of literature that come along with the professional development for all of these individuals. Those individuals who are unable to make it during this time frame in the summertime will be participating in 1 day of responsive classroom, kind of an overview during the 4 days that we have, or 4 or 5 days at the beginning of the year we have for professional development. So it's a pretty strong implementation of this. The district has actually done this before. One thing that we want to do as we move forward is find the areas that we felt were strong and build upon those. This was an area that had been done before, people had some success, and that was a strength. It's been around for a long time. The professional development and the approach. The other piece is that this was decided by the teachers who are in the Tier 1 committee that met last year with the MTSSB, led by David Frazier. They went through a whole process, and this was the unanimous decision of going forward this way. So it was a good process that was used to choose this. I think I'll leave it at that at this point in time. A lot of stuff happening. I didn't meant that, we did apply for the safety grants that we had talked about. We were able to get it in on the deadline
that day,
at the initial deadline. Now, looking back at that, I guess there was like 3.3 million that was across the state that was available. I don't know how many places, that's not a lot of money for what they were talking about. So I don't know what will be put out there, what we might receive, what we won't receive. There is another 10 million that has been released that will be released in August. We can go back and do the same sort of process. Hopefully, if we do not get the money, they'll tell us why, and then we can make adjustments for that second one.
Right. So Ruben's covered a lot. Are there any questions? Anybody have anything further? Yes, Charlie.
Where do we stand from a readiness perspective for the workshops at the end of the month and the first day of school?
The workshops at the end of the month, I think the schools have pretty well planned. I feel pretty good about that. We'll have 1 or 2 days that we're going to be meeting, not next week, but the week after, just to make sure that everything's finalized. A couple of the days, 1 day at RMS is going to be this responsive classroom. We'll have CPR training as well, handbook training, the typical things, curriculum work, PLC work that will be going on during that time frame. We'll have an opening day that will be, we're still trying to get the venue for that. We're trying to do something a little bit different since we're focusing on building community and collaboration and so forth. We're looking at the Camp Monadnock over there. We haven't landed on that, but what will likely happen is do some team building for the middle high school in the morning, have our all district kind of assembly that we would have, with myself, anyone else who wants to talk up here on this stage to the faculty. And then in the afternoon, there will be team building events for the elementary school teachers and so forth. on that day. And that's not the first day. We've gotten away from doing it on the first day when people come back because their brains aren't there, but I think it was like the 20.
What date is it?
24th, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, so it'll be the 25th. 25th would be the day that we're aiming for that event. You know, we still have some planning to do.
So first day of school.
First day of school, we are on track for the first day of school.
I know one year we had stuff in the halls and that hadn't been placed in the classroom yet
Mhm.
and so forth.
Yeah, no, I'll be
And then-
doing,
and then
I'll be doing
next
the
year we
walk-
had
the flooding.
the flooding, yeah,
Mhm.
so. I just
What are we
wanted-
gonna have this year? Charlie wants to.
That's,
Well-
yeah, that's what I'm really asking.
I think the elementaries are gonna be in pretty good shape. I do think that, you know, they're still trying to finish up the HVAC work, so there may be some items there, but during the school year, they kept it pretty cleaned up during the day when students were there and and the adults. Here, you know, clearly there's a lot of work happening here, and so that's what we're gonna have to probably focus our energy on, is making sure that this building is ready to roll, and that the plans for the continued work hammered out.
I'm not worried about that because John said he would make that happen. so.
He did, yeah. It's a lot more extensive even than I thought it was going to be as to what they're doing.
How is transportation looking?
It's an area that I need to check in on because there has been some transition there, you know, at the leadership
Mhm.
position. I do know that in talking with Heather Lindstad today, that she's going to need to have to work with them on transportation concerns. Some of, you know, making sure we have enough buses and so forth. We still, you know, obviously drivers, having enough drivers is gonna be the issue. That's what I'm most interested in. But we did have a notice that our golf team, for instance, was moved from Division 3 to Division 4. They moved a lot of different people. What that does, unfortunately, is causes us to have to travel a lot further for some of our matches in that area, and isn't going to, so it's not as advantageous to our travel plans. So that was the conversation I had around travel today, so we have to follow up with them.
It could be an interesting year with the new leadership or the new ownership, and then the end of the year, I know they had trouble keeping enough drivers.
Mhm.
Be interesting.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions for Ruben?
I want to say kudos on getting 30 faculty and staff to attend the responsive classroom training. That's extraordinary. And I went through that 4-day training and I literally use it every day.
Yeah.
It's steadfast, like that has proven the test of time as a truly quality resource. And once you get it, it's a whole worldview. And it's wonderful. It's completely student focused. It's really, but reasonable, manageable, reasonable, practical. Very, very exciting that you got that many on board. I've seen, we have one particular school. A lot of people have done it, but we have one school that kind of calls themselves like they have so many staff trained in it. And it is just breathed throughout. Like this is how everybody talks, everybody works. Yeah,
Yep.
it's really an incredible perspective. So very good.
Yeah, I think another exciting piece of that is not just a number, it's like 28, and then, like I said, the administrators is the number of new hires that are coming, which is really great. Not all of them could, but many,
Very relevant.
most. I think.
Great.
Okay, then we'll, I guess, move on to the consent agenda. So do we have a motion?
I'll motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Now for discussion. I would like to, and maybe I should have said this beforehand, but I'd like to remove the minutes for July 11th and July 18th. So we can do those separately, please.
I'll make a motion to remove the minutes. Those two July dates, July 11th and the 18th. I'll make a motion to remove the public minutes from July 11th and July 18th from the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Daisy?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Christine?
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
And John, aye. Yeah, I have to remember to do that roll call vote. I have a question before we vote on this, and I don't know if Carrie is still there, but I'm looking at manifests and I'm seeing, some very large numbers. I think there's about, I don't know, between deductions and manifests, it's like millions of dollars, and just wondered if there was any additional information that you can provide, Ruben, or that Carrie could provide.
I might be able to even answer it. Are you asking specifically about the PR numbers, why there's so many of them? Okay, those are the weekly pay cycles. It's just I didn't receive any for a while, so this is catching us up. I think the last time we received it was like mid-June, so finally got all those numbers in. So it's not that they're all coming in at once in terms of financial numbers. It's just we had a backlog in which they weren't coming to the board, and I got all of them at once. So
Okay, well, thank you, Nick. I appreciate that information. And I will say that this ties into something that came up today, which is that our auditors do ask us in the form of a survey that I was asked to complete as chairperson regarding board approval of expenditures before they're paid. And the exception to that is payroll, because you can't hold payroll back until a board member gets around to approving it. But in light of that, it's probably something we should keep up with, because our auditors will, I think, appreciate it. So, this is mostly though, Nick, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. And we have the coaching nominations, one resignation, the meeting minutes, authorized signers for JGS RMS. I'm assuming there's no questions. So we have a motion and a second.
I'll motion to accept the amended
Oh, okay.
consent agenda because we had to remove the minutes. So
Okay.
I'll re-motion that.
Okay, all right,
I'll second that
again, yeah,
again.
okay. Very good, and so roll call vote. Daisy,
Aye.
thank you. Paul,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Charlie.
Aye.
Lisa.
Aye.
And I vote aye also. So motion carries 6-0. Okay. Great, on to action items.
Did
We
you
have the
want to vote on
The minutes.
the minutes?
Oh, that's probably a good idea. All right, so the minutes for July 11th and July 18th, public minutes. And then the non-public minutes for July 11th.
I'll make a motion to accept the public minutes for July 11th and July 18th and the non-public minutes for July 11th.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Christine. Daisy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Lisa,
Aye.
thank you. Charlie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I abstain. So the motion carries 5-0-1. Okay, very good. And now on to the 2022-23 school handbooks.
So typically, what we do, even though it's under action items, first of all, you can certainly act on them if you feel like you've gone through and understand everything. But that we provide this to you so that we can have them acted upon by the next board meeting that we have. Certainly, we want these in place prior to the beginning of the school year. Nick, was there an overview sheet that,
Overview sheets that were given to me were provided to the board.
Yeah.
I need to check my email. I believe they were given for the elementary level. I don't know if they were given to the middle.
okay,
But if I have them, it was such.
okay. All right. So if you go through and you have any questions and so forth, you have some time to, get those questions. If you send them to myself, I can send them to schools and so forth, or if we want to have a meeting on something, we can probably facilitate that. So I know that there have been updates to all of the handbooks. I would say JGS and RMS substitute handbook. Because we don't have a CHS JRMS one, we're looking at that to see if it's relevant for the district, and if so, we're going to probably ask that we put this in a district substitute handbook instead. And then the other handbook that isn't here, there are two other handbooks that aren't here. One is being continued to be worked on by our HR manager for the district handbook that we put into place maybe 3 years ago. And that's for all staff, no matter what their categories are. And then, so that will come your way. And then the other one is the one that we started, I think last year was the first year we did it, which was the extracurricular, co-curricular handbook for the secondary school. So I don't know as though there needs to be any updating on that one, but I'll go and check and we'll get that to you.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the handbooks? I would think that it would make sense for everybody to have a little time to go through these, especially when there's been updates. So we'll,
Yeah, I've reviewed all the updates already. On JGS and RMS, I went to the handbook and reviewed the updates,
good man.
but I couldn't do 8 handbooks in over a weekend.
Slowing down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's that?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to be familiar with them because it is policy.
So we'll ask everybody to put aside some time over the next 2 weeks to dig in a little bit, so we at least are familiar with what we're voting. And then if anything's wrong, we'll blame it on Charlie, since he's had the most familiarity with it. All right, that is said as a joke, another
But
bad joke.
it's amazing, what the administration does relative to capturing every little minute detail that you have to be able to respond to. So they're quite well written.
Good. Yeah, thank you for that.
And the discipline handbook, we said that last week, right?
Yeah, the discipline handbook is in there, and I know there have been some changes to that for the secondary schools. And I know that it's being utilized as an exemplar from the governor's team on, I think it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think it's a DEI team, but they've been looking to help secondary schools, probably high schools primarily, in making some adjustments to how they do discipline.
They've been in touch with you several times about that. haven't they?
In touch with the administration here, yes, several times. Yeah. And they interviewed our team.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they spent a good deal of time because they were making some adjustments because of things that they wanted to improve. And so they were able to talk to the governor's council and say, these are the things that went well. These are the things that we still need to work on. We've implemented this well. This needs more time to implement and so forth. So they were very appreciative of the candor.
Okay, very good. So we'll move on to policy approval.
We had the Giardelli propane fixed
Giardelli.
price agreement. I
All
think.
right, sorry. Folks, thanks for keeping an eye on me here tonight,
That one was a tough one because it was in that
Yes.
whole list.
but it's also an important one, right?
Yeah, yeah. One, it informs you what's happening with prices. I don't know if Carrie has anything she wants to say relative to this. This is from John Leclerc. And I don't think John's on tonight. He gives you the information. I mean, it is what it is. But the prices are going up and we're just trying to lock in.
Right.
I don't know if.
Is
you
Carrie
want
still
us-
on?
Yeah, I can give her the ability to talk and see if she wants to say something.
That would be great.
While I'm doing that, one thing that's not on the actual agenda that I did send to the board in that email was John had provided a list over time of all the prices, so that is something that the board received as well. All right, Carrie, you should be able to speak if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I can add just that John Leclerc and I had gone back and forth with Girardelli, so I had reached out to Girardelli in the spring, and it wasn't a good time to lock in, and they're basically telling us that the prices are just going up, and it's just a very volatile situation as far as the market goes. So they're actually looking to give us fixed rates for 2 years, to lock in for 2 years, which they haven't done since we first started using propane and use their tanks, utilize their tanks. So the reason why the board gets this is because the dollar amount is over the bid threshold, but our agreement with Girardelli that was signed when we installed the propane tanks was that if we went with another supplier, we would have to buy out the value of the tanks that haven't depreciated yet. So there would be a significant cost to the district should we not utilize Girardelli, but their prices have been competitive and reasonable because we have it set to be, I think it's 59 cents over the futures Bellevue rate. So they can't, what they offer us doesn't exceed that.
Okay, thank you. So does that mean that our contract says that 59 is the maximum that they can increase it?
It's 59 cents over the futures Bellevue rate. So you have to look at the futures market
Okay.
for Bellevue and see what that is. And then you add 59 cents on top of that.
Okay,
So if they were to accept this tonight, Carrie, what it sounds like is that for this school year, 22-23, they'd be agreeing to lock in at 141, is that correct? Or is it no more than 141?
Well, what I'm reading is that's the history. So you're looking at 141 as the history. So Girardelli would be a rate of 1.729 per gallon for this fiscal year, and then it would be 1.579 per gallon. Actually, something looks off because it says commencing July 1st, which is probably July, it's supposed to be July 1st, 2023, not 2022. So it looks like there might be an error in the last sentence of this memo above the graph, if I'm reading it right. Oops, I can't, I'm missing part of the words based on here. I'm trying to see, okay. Yeah. For the 1 year commencing should be July 1st through June 30th of 2023, or both for the first and second year rates at 179. Oh, I see what they did. So they combined 2 years, 1729 and 1579. So it would be 1729 for July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. And then 1.579 for July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
that is kind of awkward phrasing, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll have John fix that for the, you know, if we get a 2 year consecutive cycle again. I didn't see this right before it went to the board, this last sentence, so I didn't catch it, but
Sure, no, that's good. So, I'm assuming that you are recommending that we agree to this pricing at this point?
right, so the board has the option to lock in either at 1.729 for 1 year and not lock in for the second year, or they could lock in 1.729 for the first year and then 1.579 for the second year. I don't know what the market's going to do next year. But the prices, I mean, I don't know that things are also going to necessarily change for the better.
Terry, if they do drop significantly and we lock in at the second year at 1.52, that there's no safety valve for us to go with or to get a lower price if the prices drop significantly?
Not generally, because what they'll do is they'll purchase, they'll pre-purchase the propane. So that's when you lock in, you're typically locked in. I don't know. I mean, I could certainly reach out to them to ask if they would do that, but that's not usually how it works.
So the pricing at 152 would be significantly above what it's been for the past 5 years.
1.579, it would be more, but I mean, the rates are high anyway. So what you're looking at for our historical usage, the 1.41 this past year is because we locked in. Had we not locked in, we would have been paying more.
Right. But the actual for FY21, 2019 are also quite a bit lower. What do you think? I mean, I know you can't predict the future. You've already just said that, and of course we know that.
Which is
Right,
sad.
all I can tell you is rates have been going up everywhere and everything's getting really expensive.
Right. So the question is this a 1-year blip? I mean, it looks like Ghirardelli thinks that, or they wouldn't be giving us a lower price for year 2. So, it sounds like you're presenting this to us, but we really have to decide what we think. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
And then should you authorize locking in the rates for both years or even just 1 year, you would also include in the motion to authorize a superintendent to execute the contract.
Okay, right. Thank you.
So what we're saying is that at $1.73 per gallon, it's rounded. That's what we'd lock in for this year. That's so high.
I wish I could lock in at that rate, just saying.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think?
$2.99.
Yeah. And for propane? And 150, I mean, that's 15 cents less the next year. So if we go down to the 20 actual and the 21 actual, we did go down from 30 cents to $1.30 to $1.12, which was, an 18-cent difference. Every other time has gone up. We obviously had that big increase from 21 to 22. So it might be reasonable to assume that it's going to, if it goes down, it's not going to go down 40 cents.
Mhm.
Although it did go up.
So I think at this point
And it could go up. So
right. It's unfair to
Towards
ask
trending.
either Ruben or Carrie to predict the future. Therefore, we're going to ask Lisa and Charlie and Paul and Christine and Daisy and me to guess. What do you think? Should we lock in for a second year?
I would,
you can budget for it.
yeah, with a known amount.
So no.
I don't see what would change in our short-term future to make me think that the prices would drop significantly more.
Let me understand, we're looking at a price right now, 141.
No,
No,
1.729.
No, that's the lock-in price.
Yeah.
The actual price that we're paying right now is 141.
Yeah,
No,
because-
that expired June 30th, so we're not locked in anymore.
Okay, so what are we paying now, today?
We're not paying anything because we're not filling the propane tanks.
What
would
is,
the
what
price
is, let me
be if
change
you
the
did-
question. What's the rate today?
I don't know the answer to that.
There's a lot of complexity in this because of, you know, the way these contracts are written and reference to the Bellevue rate and all that. We know Paul just told us what he's paying.
Yeah.
We would probably do better than that because of some of
the
these.
sheer amount you're buying.
Yeah. And as a district, we get some benefit, I think.
Yeah, and the only reason we were getting the 141 is because we locked it in a couple of years ago.
Right.
Right, so
we're not-
that's,
But that's expired now, so.
right,
Yeah.
but it's, so there's no way we get that back.
Right. So it would seem to be in our interest to lock in certainly 1 year, and it sounds like probably the second year is also the way to go. For one thing, it allows us to budget, and for another thing, if the price pushes up again, we'll be a lot better off. We're protected. Yeah, we're protected.
I agree.
I mean, Charlie's trying to see if he can find the current price.
We're both trying to-
I don't have.
Well,
that
I
current-
just did, I went on the energy, the Department of, New Hampshire Department of Energy, and it listed as 3.72 per gallon.
What is it?
372.
Is that residential or wholesale?
Let's see.
That's why I saw, I got the 299, I was pumped. Whew. See these prices, I'm like, dang, should have held out. We get a little, board membership discount.
You could extra little delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little-
I don't need much.
Comparatively.
I'm calling Eastern tomorrow and find out if I can lock in. Holy crap.
It doesn't identify whether it's residential or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Based on
Yes.
the sheet that you guys received from John, I'm looking to see if I can get the current day based on the website that he put on the page. But he said that as of July 25th, 2022, the price was $1.138. And then that's without the 59 cents that you have to add on. So if you add the 59 cents, it would be 1.728. And that's as of the 25th of July, so about a week old.
So that's pretty much exactly what we have there.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see the trends changing in the next 2 years.
I'm actually very much hoping that they will, but I don't think it's something to bet on.
I wouldn't,
Well, this indicates that they might see a mild decrease the second year. And if it
They're
goes up,
expecting
it's still,
small
yes.
decrease, you're right.
Well, according to the U.S. Energy Information Center, or Union Energy Information Administration, we've had prices dropping since March. So I don't know what it was in March, but we were only paying 141. So
Right, they were higher, yeah.
Right.
We did not budget for this amount. Is this something we can cover?
I don't think we have a choice.
Right, no, the budget, unfortunately,
Well-
we're on a default budget, so that was budgeted much less, but we're going to be paying higher prices this year, no matter what.
But we increased the propane budget this year.
Can I go through with the default budget?
Because we saw, like even the electricity this month is doubling.
If you look up on the screen, that's the website that John Leclerc used to give you guys the totals. They release weekly, so we're not gonna get the next batch of numbers dropping until 8/3. So that number that we have is the most, that I just gave you, is the most up-to-date number listed on the site.
So we're not.
So I want to comment too on this, that when you're looking at like May, June, July, and August, that's not what your propane rates when you lock in are based off of, because it's based on the period from October through March during the colder months. So even though you see the price drop here, that's not what you would be paying in October through March. So when you're looking at the futures market, you're looking for the period of October through March. So when you lock in, you're not going to lock in at what the summer current rate currently is.
Right, thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
And when we look at the proposed reduction for year 2 that Ghirardelli is putting in there, we have to assume that they've done some, extensive financial analysis, and they've got the best economic data.
Or if they put it, they buy it now so far out, they get it at a discounted rate as well.
That could very well be.
Yeah, so actually the original anticipation for electricity at 20 cents per kilowatt, propane at $1.80 per gallon, gasoline at $4 per gallon, biomass 146 per ton. What was our biomass? What did that come out? Was it 150 per ton now? If Carrie knows that.
I think so. I'm pretty sure that's what John told me.
Yeah, so we were a little bit under on that estimation. Trash,
Just dang close on that. Like
trash, we're pretty close. Yeah, we were pretty close on the electricity and propane. So we were looking at $250,000 more that we would have to with all these items. So we're staying true to that. And so that was the hope of needing to take that extra 200 some odd thousand for the staff
Energy,
pieces there. So we'll have to kind of watch that. So our predictions were actually pretty close.
right. So I guess
So my estimation would be, we'd be a couple 100,000 behind.
so what's the board's
Not
pleasure?
out of the realm of being able to handle that, given if we have the proper carryover. Or if we had been able to, at the end of the year, pay for those things, that we'd probably be right on track. Via staff retirement items.
So folks,
I would motion to lock in at these prices and give the superintendent the ability to execute the contract
for how long?
for the length of the contract,
You mean for the 1 year or the 2 year?
for the 2 years.
The 2 year, okay. All right, Paul's made a motion to lock in for the 2 year. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Okay, important decision, but one that we really have to make, and any discussions?
I just want to remind people that abstention means you agree with the majority. Because we don't have a recommendation for, from John Leclerc, I don't have a recommendation for Carrie. And I don't have a clue myself, so I'm gonna leave it up to smarter people than me.
Well, I'm not a stock expert by any stretch of the imagination. But in order for us to be able to do our budgeting, I would lock in. So I can give you my personal recommendation to do that.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Barry. I think that if the price does drop significantly in year two, we would probably blame this on Ruben, is that? No,
I think that's what Carrie said. He's like, I recommend it, but if it goes south, it's Ruben's fault.
all right. And if it's-
Because he executed the contract.
and if we save a lot of money because the prices go up, then the board will take the credit. Is that-
Absolutely.
Okay,
He is supposed to foresee these things because he's supposed to submit a budget that includes them.
right.
So he has to know 18 months in advance.
You came pretty dang close on the last one they proposed.
Enough is enough. Discussion, I'm sorry.
Okay. There being no more further discussion, well, actually, I do have, no. Never mind. I was gonna ask a question that I already know the answer to. Well, let's do the roll call vote. Lisa,
Yes.
Charlie,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Paul, and Daisy.
Aye.
Was that for 2 years?
Yes.
2 years.
Okay.
And I vote aye also. Okay, motion carries 600.
It was up to 2 years, right?
That was for 2 years.
Up. I thought he said up to 2 years. So he can do 1 year or 2 years, depending on what he wants.
My recommendation was the 2 years, but
Oh.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, actually, interesting. What was the motion? Was it up to 2 years or was it 2 years?
I'd say it was 2 years based on what he said, but.
That's what my intention was.
Okay,
Yeah, it was-
does that change the vote? If people didn't understand that? Because that's,
I guess not.
there's a difference.
Wouldn't change mine, I guess.
Difference
I understood
between
it, yeah.
up
Mhm.
to and then.
Yeah,
Two.
I guess that would be my thing, as long as everyone's comfortable with following the second motion.
That's what I understood.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to be in the midst of all this uncertainty over so many things, but this fuel pricing in particular, it's a pretty big one.
Possible chocolate shortage,
Yeah, I heard that Hershey's,
grain, that's
Hershey already released a statement saying there's gonna be a shortage of Halloween candy.
But yet they'll meet their profit
Oh.
goals.
Yeah, I
So
didn't miss that.
good.
Let's not get into that. All right, policy approval. We have an annual approval of DFA, the policy on investments and how they're managed. And I presume that policy remains the same, hasn't been amended, is that?
This is one that I put on there. It wasn't gone through it didn't go through the policy committee. There was just a discussion had about how we were overdue for a annual approval. Typically we do it around, April. And it was just missed. I will take the fault for that. Hopefully our new policy backend system with notation and all that will prevent this from happening again. But yeah, it's more of an annual approval. I don't think it's changed at all in my time on the board. Traditionally, the board waives the second reading on it and pushes it through because there aren't any changes. But by law, it does have to be reapproved every year. I did ask business office whether or not it could just be reviewed or something like that, but it does need a formal approval per law, so.
Right, and obviously, our auditors, again, are very interested in how we handle our investments and they want to be sure that our policy protects us against mistakes as well as fraud.
Does Carrie have anything to add for this at all? Or suggestions?
Sorry,
Karen,
Ruben,
you're-
did you just ask me if I,
I didn't know if you
Anything to add?
wanted to speak, if you wanted to speak to this, if that would be okay, John.
Yeah, no, that would be good.
And then if you did have anything that you wanted to say to this.
sure, it's it's a policy that the board has. I don't believe there are any changes that need to be made, but the auditors well, by law, it needs to be approved every year, and the auditors actually look to confirm it's been reviewed every year. Otherwise, we get an audit finding because it wasn't reviewed. And it's just stating what we need to make sure is transpiring, which is what's already taken place. We already have a letter of credit in place with TD Bank, and they take care of, it goes through the Bank of New York, Mellon, I believe, and they take care of all of the investing to make sure we're meeting all of the requirements.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Any
Well,
comment or questions? So, the auditors want to make sure that we're paying attention to safety, liquidity, and yield, and we're doing an adequate job of that. So. And now, is this a second reading on this, or is this first reading?
This would be a first reading. We would waive the second if we wanted to go through.
Okay. And then policy IHBG, homeschooling, non-public schooling.
So this policy is one required by the New Hampshire School Board Association, and they have updated it to say what we have been saying all along. So it's really just no changes on this policy. It's just marking that we reviewed it and approved it of this date. We last approved it June 18th, 2018, where this would simply be approving it to now. But there's really no changes. What the law now states, it wasn't, excuse me, it was the governor signing. The law now states that if a child is being homeschooled and would like to come to our extracurricular or athletic, that there aren't any further restrictions that wouldn't be in place for other students now, regular resident students, matriculate students. So that's simply been our policy as it is. We have things in place so that we are protected, students are protected, regardless of whether they are homeschooled residents or matriculated students. So.
Okay.
And just a comment on how it appears on the agenda. I wrote review, no changes. I believe it was 2 or so years ago, the board asked that policies reviewed by the policy committee come to the board so that it reflects on the agenda, but it doesn't necessarily need, you don't need to approve it per se. We just tack a review date on the actual policy to say that you guys have seen it, because there's no action needed. I mean, obviously, if you guys want to make a motion, you want to do something with that, that's fine. But based on my understanding of process and how we've wanted to do things, that this satisfies my requirement to say that we've reviewed it on this date.
Okay, we've been given access to the fact that it's been reviewed, and if we have any questions about it, we can bring them up either tonight or in a subsequent meeting, right? Okay, so we don't need a motion on these unless anybody
Well-
wants.
You do need
First
one on
one.
DFA, just not on IHBG. DFA does need to be approved every year,
Oh, it
so that
does.
one does require the motion.
Okay. So given that there were no changes in DFA, which is the investment policies, what's the pleasure of the board? Would you like to wait till the next meeting so you can review it, or should we just go ahead and?
I'll make a motion, we approve policy DFA.
Thank you, Charlie. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Christine.
Can I make a comment on it?
Yes, you can.
So I just quickly took a look at the New Hampshire School Board Association's policy DFA. They have that we do not need to review it annually. They just have that it is reviewed, will periodically review it. Do we want to continue doing this? It's not, I was wondering with the legal, like legally, theirs also hasn't been updated since 2004, but do we want to continue doing this?
There is a law. that-
Yeah, I don't think it's the NHSBA that has the authority on it. Yeah, they make recommendations, but Nick is
Right.
pointing to the law. I was gonna say our auditors.
Okay, the other, yeah, I knew that there were RSAs involved in this, but it looked like they were covered there too, but okay. The auditors say once a year. Okay,
I can find the specific law if you guys want and send that out, but there is a sentence in one of the New Hampshire RSAs that says approval.
Okay.
Because like I said, that was one thing I questioned, was to make sure, like, okay, what is the reasoning behind the annual approval? And there is a bylaw requirement on it.
Nick, if you don't mind, why don't you go ahead and do that? I think it's great for us to review those RSAs, and I realize this is just one, but it's about an important topic and be a reminder that those RSAs are out there. We should look them up when we need them. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. If there's no more discussion, we'll do a roll call vote. Daisy,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Charlie.
Aye.
And Lisa.
Aye.
And I vote aye also. So that carries 600, and thank you. And now we're on to board committee updates. So, who would like to start out? Charlie, I know that finance has been active. Would you like to give us an update on what you've been?
Last meeting, we did a review of FY 22. There were still outstanding invoices that needed to be processed. So, we don't have any absolutely accurate figures. The general fund looks like it's gonna end up with about 300K plus retained earnings. Food services is down 100K, so we have 200K plus retained earnings. We're waiting for more revenue, approximately 81K. It looks like we might be able to retain the full 5%, which is 901K in retained funds. We requested a security grant for the schools. We haven't received notification yet, but John is following up, John Leclerc. For 23, special ed is already in the hole. Staffing looks like it's going to be okay. We discussed food service, DYI, and versus renewal, and something that we're going to continue to discuss. We're going to check on electronic invoice signatures, and let's see. As of that time, we're going to have an out-of-district tuition workshop to address just the tuition issue. And that's it. Anything else?
Okay,
No, just that we had our first meeting on the out of district tuition today.
Right,
And,
we did have that today.
and the added district tuition, I don't know if you want to give us any kind of just.
Well, we started out looking at pros. This is just my notes. I'm sure that Christine will do a much better job than I did. Some of the pros are income, but we need to budget it. Because otherwise we can't use it. It just comes in as additional income, unanticipated income. School reputation would be a positive because we could attract students. Proactive, more attractive to teachers, no bullying, 501 services, need to focus on the JR community, need to be inclusive and acceptive. Academics is one possibility, and happy teachers would definitely attract people. Some of the cons were predictability, knowing how many people might come from out of district. The cost of facilities, including CTE air system. The shift in the behavior balance. The perception of paying more than a resident. Excuse me, paying
Less
Mhm.
than the
yeah,
residents.
less than a resident. Okay, the residents, taxpayers pay a certain amount, and when we charge tuition, it's less than that. And then the cost could go up where we might have to hire a teacher. So that there was some discussion around that may result in lower class sizes, but you'd have to have a lot of, because it's an incremental 80K or 90K. So you'd have to have a lot of out of district tuitioners. Let's see. One of the notes that we needed to do is make sure that any policy included the fact that they have to apply for vouchers to come here. We had some discussion around special ed. Let's see. We discussed homeschool and some of the things that might prevent people from coming to our schools. And when we were talking about community, you know, what are the things that we can offer to the community that would entice them to come?
Complex subject.
And then we talked a little bit about policy, which was policy needs, which is tuition for coming. You have to have space available. Special ed plus base plus extra that parents pays for, services available, extra costs for CTE and sports, right to terminate. Annually reapprove it, subject to other policies. Tuition students have priority over new OOD, that's out of district students. Policy should have separate procedures. What if they don't pay? Do they pay no monthly? We should check Keene's policy.
Right. So it sounds almost like minutes, although.
It is.
So, is it safe to say that you intend to meet again on this? Is it?
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
will be meeting again
And again,
and again, and then we'll get legal involved. Again.
Okay. Thank you for the update on that. And what about well, we've got policy, goals, facilities. What am I missing?
Facilities didn't meet last month, but apparently you had some more information than I had. About some parts being back ordered. And
Right, when I returned from Nicaragua, I gave John a call just to check in. There had been a proposal made through John's office that we skip the July meeting and meet in August instead. So we have a meeting planned for August 15th. We're going to be meeting as a part of that time with the Ringe Energy Committee. They made a proposal to look into the feasibility of doing a solar array on the land owned by the district out on 202. And their proposal is that the solar array would provide electricity for the entire district plus the two towns. And that that could, you know, be a big benefit. So whether or not it's feasible, we don't know. There's a lot of factors to consider. But there is a planned meeting for the 15th. Also, Steve Horton, who is our clerk of the works on the HVAC project, indicated that August should be in a better position to give us a full update. So that should be, you know, an important meeting. And yeah, the part about the parts shortage. According to John, it's not just affecting us, it's affecting the entire country with electrical parts. And Paul, I think you asked earlier what the parts are exactly. I'm not really sure, but They're components that serve many different types of equipment and they're predicting a long supply chain delay.
Do they have chips in them?
I understand we're getting into a chip glut at the moment because the economies have slowed. A year ago, we were in a chip shortage, right? Looked like it was gonna last a while, so who knows? Yeah, do they have chips? Probably. I think
I would think that they're probably controllers and that kind of thing. But, when you say electronic, that's usually what it means.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Different types of controllers. Okay, do we have any update on the goals committee?
Not yet. We are meeting August 25th at 4:30.
Great. Thank you, thank you, Lisa. And what about policy?
Our next meeting is 10:30 in the morning, August 18th. And we had a very good meeting last week before. Just trying to isolate specific needs, high need items, things on school safety, the tuition for the non-residents, but a number of them. So we're really delving into, I feel like we're doing like one a month, which is frustrating because there's so many that need to be updated. But I feel like the time we're taking on some of these is so valuable that I feel like it's actually being really productive. So we should be able to come to the school board with some real meaty pieces for you very soon. Hopefully our next policy meeting will be able to come forward and say, yes, let's get everybody's eyes on this for a first reading. But there's a couple that are pretty big that we want to really delve deeper into. The other piece of it is Nick came and presented his work he's been doing on making a cohesive document to show our updates for the policies, creating a database for that, and that's coming on beautifully, and it's going to be invaluable to being able to get the necessary ones updated as soon as possible. So I'm looking forward to completely seeing that.
Even just from when I last spoke to you guys to now, I've completed a large chunk more, so we might even have a completed document by the end of the week. All I have left is the I's and the J's, which are the two biggest sections, but so that'll put the policy committee in a good place to be able to just kind of go through stuff that needs to be changed and go from there.
Yeah. And I had gone in and to the school board minutes and found that are available in the last 5 years, 5 school years, and found all the policies we updated and shared a database with or a worksheet with Nick to say this is what we did. And there's a couple that there
All
were
those have
questions
also
on.
since been updated as well. So all the ones that you pointed out in that sheet have now been brought up to date. So
Perfect.
that deep dive the past 5 years was helpful because now we know that everything the school board approved over the past 5 years is completely accurate, showing on the our policy wiki and this back end document. And then after I complete this phase, we have digital history dating back to I think 2001. And the earliest policy I've seen on file is 2003. So hopefully we'll be able to have that complete history. And then we'll be able to also include on our policies the history of when the board has acted on policies so that you guys can have an idea as to how often certain ones have or haven't been updated or looked at. So.
Yeah, and there is one piece that I'd like to put a bug in your ear about now. One of the policies that we were discussing in one of our previous meetings was talking about having exit interviews for staff. Come to find out, as I created this document for Nick about 4 years ago, the school board had the same conversation where 3 school board members spoke, I mean, it's all in the minutes, spoke and said they really felt a strong need for exit interviews, and that was years ago. And so I brought that, and I actually found, we've never had a policy on it, or that I know of. We don't have one right now. But Kearsarge School District does have a very comprehensive policy that I thought was pretty interesting as a starting point. Regardless, what I guess I'd like to poll you guys on is if you wouldn't mind just simply shooting me an email of whether you believe that this is something of value and your thoughts on it. And then when the policy committee meets, I'll share those emails with the group as part of our conversation. And then if we feel, yes, so very informal, nothing, no conversation, please. Just shoot an email and say, this is why I think this would be valuable, or this is why I think this is simply not necessary for us, what we're doing. So just think about it. And our meeting again isn't for another little over 2 weeks. And then I can just bring that to our policy committee. We can have that as part of the informed discussion to have something to bring forward, okay?
Sounds like you guys have put some serious hours in on this.
Say it again, sir.
You guys have put some serious hours in on this. It's great.
Well, it's to avoid having to meet more than once a month.
Mhm.
I'm really terrified of having to do that with everything else happening. I really.
Even getting that whole system up that should really expedite future things. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's more of that SAU interest and thought as to looking at the kind of foundational level things that we have and rebuilding them so that they make sense, so that we can make sure things are, better followed. So it has been a huge lift for me personally to fix this document over the summer and to fix all the things to make it cohesive, but hopefully that allows the policy committee and everybody else to better know what the policies are, and then we can better keep track of the future. So
Awesome.
That's great.
Okay. And thank you, Lisa. Wellness. We haven't really,
We don't
That
need over
is
the summer.
so we don't have any update on that, but we'll be back in touch. I guess September.
Mhm.
And communications.
now that some things have slowed down a little bit for some people, we're looking to have an organizational meeting within the next couple weeks. Again, we've officially closed the chapter on the first phase of communication. We're opening a new chapter. This organizational meeting will be focused on making sure that we have the right members for the committee. Again, the goal is, rather than to have these meetings and just kind of updating how the plan is going, it's more to focus on specific targeted areas so that we can be more proactive as to what we're doing and how we're approaching communication, so that we're not again, just reacting to things that are happening. The likely focus of the first meeting would probably be the website. That was at least what was brought up at the last meeting, but that could be subject to change, obviously, as we go to formulate. So we do 4 or so meetings over the school year, and those would be more public forums, hopefully trying to invite more members of the public in, so that we can still get that heavy public participation. But again, you're telling people what the subject area is, so that if they care about it, they can show up, they can participate. If they don't care, they obviously can save till the next meeting. And then when it's something that they feel really important, have important opinions on, they can come voice that. We can take that into consideration. So.
Good, and so you're gonna try to schedule that in the next couple of weeks is?
Yeah, we had talked about having obviously the 2 board members on the committee attend that. And then the thought was to have members of administration attend, just because we had talked about having specific types of staff members, and then having once we have more details as to what we're doing, have a call out to the public. We'd probably first ask the people who served on the original committee if they want to continue serving in their capacities, and if not, do a call out for certain categorical areas, just to make sure we have better representation. Because as we kind of dwindled from, what was it, 2018 or 2019, where we had like 30 people, we dwindled down to a small group of like 4 people or so that would consistently show up and provide input. And it wasn't very representative. It didn't represent everybody that kind of is a stakeholder in the communication process. So trying to be very specific in the different categories of people, so that if, say, a JGS teacher drops out, we can try to replace them with another JGS teacher. If a community member drops out, we can replace them with another community member, and just having that very steady, equal representation.
Okay, well, thank you for that update. And I think that's all of our committees. Have I missed anything?
Did we talk about the education?
No, we did not. Thank you.
So I think Kim sent an email out, just a brief summary
Right.
about the education committee. There was a presentation that was provided by each of the principals and well, and some of their other administration around preliminary data having to do with New Hampshire SAS for the middle school, high school, and also for the elementary, as well as some NWEA data for the elementary school. And then a fairly extensive, well, I wouldn't say it was a deep dive, but it was a deeper dive than what we've had perhaps in prior years for discipline data, middle school, high school.
Can I ask, why wasn't that a public, like, was, no, I know that that's a public meeting, but that seems to be something that would be more valuable, like, would be valuable at this meeting. Something that was video, that was on Zoom, and something that we could ask questions of the school board, and is that something we can? Yeah, I mean, I see in Kim's email that that you guys can forward the presentation, but that seems like it's a pretty crucial thing for the school board.
It's very long.
They were requested and agreed to bring a condensed version to the board. Because there's a lot of very good information in it.
Wonderful.
And I found the behavior information extremely eye-opening. The data, not the, when I talk about information, about the data. Okay. So,
Yeah, I would
Yes.
love to see the whole presentation, but yeah, getting a.
It was recorded, I just haven't posted it. I'd be happy to share that as well.
Perfect.
Obviously, it's secondhand, but.
No,
skips
that'd be
some.
ideal. Is that something that can be posted on the line? Like, is that something that can be part of our?
I mean,
so
typically we
parents can
post,
see it?
education committee is the one committee that we are currently recording. Sometimes I'll post Zoom information. This particular one I didn't, just because I didn't even know if I was gonna be able to make it due to a family situation. So it was very last minute as to whether or not I was gonna be there. I was able to at least record it. But typically we do Zoom those, and then very similar setup to this, and then record it, put it up on the YouTube page. So I think we have every other meeting that I've done.
But we do have it recorded and we'll put it on the for display.
Yeah, I mean, as a parent, I would love to see those kind.
I have a copy of the slide. Like that.
So it sounds like now you're gonna put the slides up or get me the links. and
So what
stuff.
when I post any of these meetings, what I do is I post the actual recording, obviously, but then because usually in the top right-hand corner, it cuts off a little bit of the presentation, I usually also include whatever slides in the presentation. So once I post that, you'll have not only the 2-hour meeting, plus it was 70 something slides of information.
Good.
We'll see.
So
I love that stuff.
John,
Yeah, but you do have to listen to it with the explanation. That's the key.
John, I want to go back to the wellness committee for a second.
Yes.
This has been on my mind this summer. One of the tasks that we were working on with the wellness committee was really getting the food service to meet their obligation to create a survey, which they did, but I don't think they ever actually released it. So I'm wondering, Ruben, if you ever heard of the survey being released?
I believe it was released. I'm not sure it was released in the manner, in the way that we would
Okay.
want it to. I would have to, it was a brief discussion we had at a leadership meeting.
Okay.
I can bring it up tomorrow, maybe, if I can remember to do that.
Thank you.
See what we have for information. I don't have any of the information that would have come out of the survey.
Mhm.
Thank you for that follow.
Nick, that would be, the wellness committee has to do maybe a couple surveys, whether it's the food service, or we also have to help with, creating a survey of the after-school and athletic activity landscape. I'm wondering if you could help us create surveys that capture the right information. Would you be the right person to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've created, I don't know, a dozen surveys since I've been here at least. So I'd be happy to help with that. Whether that be, you guys just give me information, I craft it, send it back to you guys, you approve it, or if you want me to try to go to one of the meetings and kind of sit down and help out with that. But yeah, we have a pretty solid history of getting a decent response through the surveys that we've done. Obviously, you're never going to get 100% participation, but especially over COVID, we started seeing, I think the more we kind of got information out, we saw that steady increase. So we can do that, and then I can share spreadsheets and whatnot on the information so that you guys can kind of decide from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thanks for all the updates, and if there's nothing else, let's move on to board matter. No, we have public comments. Sorry. Nick, do we have anybody online for public comments?
Still just Carrie tonight, and I don't think I saw anybody come in here unless there's somebody over in the corner. So I guess Carrie, if you have a public comment, adhere to our policy, first, last name, town of residence, use the hand raise feature.
Well, I just want to say that we have a policy on public comment. I'm not sure that she would have to have permission.
Carrie doesn't live in district.
She does not live in
Oh,
district.
true.
Okay.
Good point. That would be a good following in policy.
All right, well, I think we probably can pass over public comments then and move on to board matters. Does anybody have a board matter they'd like to bring up? I do have one item. The people who came to present to us about the plans for the roundabout earlier this year, they're holding a town walkthrough this coming week. I think it's a week from today, I believe. And if we want to participate, we can. What would a walkthrough be? Well, they are looking to have people basically who have concerns, who have an interest, propose a walkthrough. In our case, I suppose it would be relating to our dispersal routes. And it would be an opportunity to talk with them about how they're going to handle different aspects of the of those dispersals. So as I say, that is coming up on August 8th. They're calling it a Main Street walk around. And if we would like to have them meet with us, we just need to let them know.
Do you know if the bus company has received that information?
I do not know that, no.
Probably not.
Okay. So probably is an opportunity we should take advantage of on some level.
It's called a walk around or a walkabout.
They're calling it a Main Street walk around, and I do have some information on it. I'll send it to you.
Mhm.
I'll make sure I got it to you in the morning.
Yep.
Certainly, we had some information from the town when they did come to our meeting with the presenters from the consulting firm. they mentioned that there would be sidewalks that would be going in along Stratton Road. But where those sidewalks, physically exactly are gonna go, I don't know. I did hear the description, it made it sound like they were gonna come right up to our property. But I would be interested to actually get some confirmation on things like that.
It's gonna be 3 years of traffic jams.
Well, they've pointed out that a lot of the work is gonna happen in that bridge going over the river. And during that time, there's gonna be a mess, but it shouldn't affect traffic as much. But later in the project, or at some points, there's gonna be
The only thing I can think of is the Peterborough Bridge that they did construction on a year or two ago now, and the headache that was.
right.
The sidewalks, I mean, it's still a headache,
Hmm.
but it's beautiful. It's almost done and
In the library.
it was a massive improvement. I don't know if you've ever walked that area, but that sidewalk was really unsafe. And they fixed it and should be fixed for a long time. So it was a headache. The headache is less now, but there's a solid improvement in functionality, so.
Well, that's right. And it should last for a long time, and certainly whatever happens here is gonna affect our students. Both those coming from the grade school in this direction, but especially those coming out of the middle high school. And it could be an opportunity. I was driving down Main Street in Keene the other day, and I drove past a couple of pedestrian walkways that I've driven past many times before. Usually there's nobody in them. Either one's on Main Street fronting the college. But this day there were a couple of people approaching them, and they had these flashing lights that I didn't even know were there. I've been driving up and down that road for a long time. But they only trigger when a pedestrian approaches them. So I mean, there's things like that that we can have input on if we think that that's gonna improve the life of our students. All right, moving on. If there are no other board matters, future items.
Yeah, with the ed committee dashboard or whatever you want to call it, the data.
The data
presentation.
dashboard, right?
Yeah, put that on there because it's a lot of good information.
So we've had that on the future items agenda for a while, right?
No,
Well, two different things.
Okay.
So one is an ongoing dashboard that we're working on
Yes.
developing.
I see, yes.
The data dashboard, for the district that will go on the website and so forth. Some of this information might be pertinent to that data dashboard. But I think what Charlie's saying, the more immediate need next time around for that matter, the abridged version
Right.
of what was presented. So we had shoved 2 hours into 25 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know how, but that would be, it was extensive.
And I'm not sure if I'm following, is this relating to the SAS data?
The initial SAS data that we have. So we've found over the last couple of years that it doesn't usually change that much. I mean, there's official data and there's the data you get right away. We're in that we have the data right away. We don't have the official information yet, but it's within a percent, difference. So we went forward with some of the information. Yeah. And also for the elementary school, they looked at NWEA, which is another data point that they have 3 times a year.
And NWEA?
Yep. That's maps. Some people call it that. Maps assessment, but the Northwest Education Association, I think it is, or Evaluation Association.
Yeah.
I think also the high school, middle school presented for the first time PSAT data and SAT data. They have now a stream of using the PSAT 8 for the 8, the 8-9, for 8 and 9. There's a PSAT for the 10 and then the 11, so that they can track all the way up. All the way through. This will be the first year of that sequence.
And if we need to break it into two,
Mhm.
I think, and so we don't lose as much, then I think that's
Mhm.
probably a nice thing to do.
Yeah, but we do elementary separate from, or behavior separate from.
Right.
Yeah, find where the natural, the break is.
Okay,
I have one more.
yes,
I presume at some point this month, we have to talk about reopening around COVID.
Yeah, we were talking about that today. So we will bring a document to the board for next board meeting.
Awesome, thank you.
So-
With suggestions.
it'll be a busy end of the month for everybody. I think I understand that Ruben is taking vacation next week,
That's correct.
and this will be his chance to charge his batteries before full speed ahead.
Gonna go full speed ahead after that. You know. So, busy week this week.
I suggested he leave his cell phone home, but he didn't seem to.
Well, I don't know how he can compartmentalize like he does. Because if I had all on my plate, if I was on vacation, I wouldn't be sleeping much.
Day number 1 doesn't go so well, but you know, it gets better.
Okay, so our procedure now, we need to return to non-public. So does that mean we do that before adjournment? Or could we adjourn and then go back
I think
to?
we can go to non-public and then we can non-public, come back in here and then adjourn. Okay, yeah. So it'll be someone making a motion to go back into non-public.
Make the motion, go back in non-public.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Second that.
And thank you, Christine.
You guys need a roll call vote.
Yeah, we would need a roll call vote.
Oh, great. Sorry, thank you. Daisy,
Aye.
okay, Lisa,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
and Brian. And I vote aye.